A new year should signal a fresh start for all of us, a time to take stock and reassess how we manage our lives, particularly how we manage stress. Well, joining us with tips on how to strengthen our resilience in the new year is Dr. Greg Hammer, professor at Stanford University School of Medicine. It's good to have you back.
Wonderful to be with you again.
So let's talk about stress. Let's start there. So that's something that once we're under its spell, it's very hard to break. So how do you kind of start the new year with the mindset of knowing how to better manage your stress?
Great question. First of all, chronic stress is a maladaptive response. It's much like the overblown immune response that so many people are suffering with COVID. The immune response is very important, but if it's excessive, it causes all kinds of problems, inflammation in the lung and elsewhere in the body, issues with the circulation, with immunity, etc. So stress is similar. Acute stress may be adaptive. That is, that surge in adrenaline or epinephrine that we get and the increase in cortisol when we hear a splash in the swimming pool and a toddler is missing. It gives us the wherewithal to jump in the pool and rescue the toddler.
Sure.
But when that response lasts for more than a very short period of time, it also wreaks havoc with our circulation, with our immunity, with our hormone system, et cetera. And so it's really important to recognize the damages that chronic stress causes. We often don't realize that we're under stress, but when we settle down and think about it, we realize maybe our heart rate's a little high. If we checked our blood pressure, it was high, et cetera. So how do we remedy that? We remedy that through, as you suggested, increased personal resilience. And the approach that I teach to chronic stress and to augment resilience is expressed in the acronym GAIN. The components of GAIN, which I think are the four pillars of happiness and resilience, are gratitude, acceptance, intention, and non-judgment. And this is a great time of year to focus on our gratitude. It's been a rough year for many people, but there's still much for which to be grateful.
And you say to replace negative thoughts and feelings with positive ones, but it's not just that simple. You don't just snap your fingers or flip a switch and all of a sudden you're starting to think of positive thoughts. But what is a couple of stepping stones to get to that place that you would recommend? Some of our viewers who are watching this are wondering, well, how do I start to implement the GAIN method or something similar?
Yes, well, that's a great question, because we can't do what's called a spiritual bypass and just pretend that everything is fine, and it will be. The A in GAIN, so after we've focused on our gratitude in our morning GAIN contemplation or meditation, we go to acceptance. And as the Serenity Prayer would have us know, we need to discern between what we can change and what we cannot change. And what we cannot change that doesn't comport to the way we want the world to be, we must accept. And so we again have to do that intentionally. So we do have to focus on that which causes us pain.
Right.
And you know, there's a formula in the book, suffering equals pain times resistance. And there are a lot of ways to resist. One of them is doing this spiritual bypass and just kind of skipping over, focusing on what hurts us. But if we open our arms and embrace what causes us pain, which sounds antithetical, but it's not, we can accept just about everything. In my case, for example, the death of my son 4 years ago. So we all have pain, but if we open our arms and accept it, our suffering will be diminished. So that's very important.
Absolutely.
And then we're on to intentional thinking and living, and non-judgment. And all of these things are relatively simple. It just takes a daily practice. And after a few months, we'll look back and realize how far we've come.
Well, Dr. Hammer, first of all, I am so sorry for the loss of your son. I also want to point out to our audience that you are a pediatric intensive care physician as well. So I want to ask you this. We only have about 20 seconds left, but for the younger, the kiddos out there who are finding themselves stressed out, do you have any other tips, or would you implement the same methods for young people as you would for adults?
Yes, I think the most important thing is that parents of these young children embrace the GAIN method, for example, and find a way to increase their resilience and de-stress. Our kids take a page from us. So that's most important. And then we can express and teach these very simple elements to our kids almost at any age.
Fantastic. Mindfulness in 2022. Dr. Hammer, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, anytime.
And a Happy New Year.
Likewise.
Thank you. We're back after this.